Shalom Baruch everyone, welcome back to the VHP again. We're excited to go through the sugyas of Bezrat Hashem Ohel, more directly the sugya of Mechitza Materes this week. Okay, before starting the sugyas of Mechitza, we'll just start with a little Hagdama into Hilchos HaOhel that's going to be taking us over the next couple of weeks, which are very beautiful and clean sugyas, top to bottom, from Gemara down to Rishonim, down to Halacha Levaisa. So Bezrat Hashem, I'm very excited, and I'm sure you're very excited also. Let's start over here, the Geder of Ohel, which is obviously Chelek of the Malacha of Binyan. But the Kilas Yaakov, the Stipler going over here, the Stipler brings down the Chilek, what is going to be considered Binyan and what is Ohel. We might have come to this on our own, but says the Kilas Yaakov over here, page 2 of your Maran Mekomos, the Geder av Malacha, the Bonuhu b'mechaber lekarka, she is sod Binyanu chiburu lekarka. Something that's going to be connected to the ground, that is binyan. Anything that's connected to something connected to the ground, also, as we learn, anything you're going to add to your house is all going to be part of the malacha of binyan, like we talked in Hilchos Binyan. Avala osa oel keva. But if you make an oel keva, kigam porei sadin alamunin vasam l'shen kvias, elish lo chibron lekarka b'kasher amitz. Okay, you made a permanent ohel, but you didn't tie it to the ground with a strong kesher. V'nasa b'oshem yirtza yacholaf lemashbel pino ulevatel oil. You could do it in a way that you could knock it down. You could take it to get rid of it. Ein ze avalacha. That's not going to be the avalacha, even though it's made b'kvias, even though it has an oil. That is going to be only the tolda and not the avalacha, the tolda of binyan, which is ohel over here. That we're going to discuss over the next couple of weeks. Now, the Gemara, just in terms of words of introduction over here, in terms of Ohel, that's very important to us, is that the Gemara, on page 3 of your Maran Mekomos, tells us that there are 3 levels of different types of Ohel. It says, V'tanya guda mishameres kilo v'kisa galon lo yasa, v'im yasa potter of alaser. We'll get to these definitions of these terminologies, Bezrat Hashem, in the upcoming Shiurim. There is, though, things that are going to be potter of alaser. Oil keva lo yasav im asa chayiv chatas, and oil keva is going to be an echiv daraisa, a tolda bone, as we just learned. Aval mita kisei v'traska v'asla mutter limtosa lechatchila. Certain types of oil that are going to be mutter lechatchila to make. So we have an oil keva that's going to be a chiv chatas. We have an olarai that's going to be patal asar and iser derabanan, and we have certain olim that are mutter lechatchila to build on Shabbos. We are going to build this sugya and understand it well from top to bottom. What is, though, the chilik between ohel keva? What turns something into an ohel keva, a permanent, established ohel, versus something that is only a rai? So the Shartzian, on page 15 of our Maran Mekomos, if you look at the Shartzian, Siman Shin Tez Vav, Os Vav, says the Shartzian, Mikol Makom Nira, this is a Dafka Derech HaVilon Sheshoa Sham Kama Yomim B'Stimazu. If you have a vilon that's going to be hung for numerous days, that's going to be an ohel keva. Aval Yom Derech Huli HaPatech Tomid Lo Chashiv Stima Kavua Min HaTorah. So it sounds like from the Shartzian, already after a couple of days already, that could be considered an ohel keva, and automatically it is going to be asr. However, when you open up the Bikur Yaakov back on page 4 of our Maran Mekomos, the Bikur Yaakov, the author of also the Aruch Lener, the Bikur Yaakov is only a sefer on Hilchos Sukkah, an unbelievable sukkah that you cannot learn Hilchos Sukkah without. The Bikur Yaakov does not sound like the Shartzian. Because says the Bikur Yaakov, once again, this is Hilchos Sukkah, he's discussing a sukkah, says the Bikur Yaakov, the Luhavi ela oel araish asarak min derabanan. A sukkah that's built is only going to be an oel arai. We know a sukkah is built for 7 days, 8 days, Chutz La'aretz Eretz Yisrael, and therefore even after 7, 8 days, it is still considered an oel arai. Since then you're going to be taking it down anyway. So what is exactly the gather of ohel keva? According to the Bikur Yaakov, it's unclear, but according to the Shartzian, sounds like already after a couple of days. If you look at Mishnah Berurah, Sivkat and Vav, we see that we're not only mistakel on the time that the ohel is built, not only on the quantity of time, but also on the quality of the ohel. If it's going to be built much stronger, that could also turn into an ohel keva, even if it's only up for a smaller amount of time. We will also learn an important factor in Hilchos Ohel. You have to have at least of a tefach that is going to be underneath the ohel for it to be considered an ohel. If not, then it's like putting a tablecloth on your table should be building an ohel. There's no tefach there, therefore it is not going to be a problem of ohel. Okay, but building an ohel is definitely a problem. Okay, now I'm going to share with you that happens something happened this Shabbos. Okay, just as introductory words to the discussion, what we're going to be discussing today in Hilchos Mechitza. Okay, generally we walk into Moreinu Rabbeinu and Evan's house Shabbos morning Vasikin, and he is on one side of the shkufta on the new Corona Mechitzas that we built in the Rav's house. Him and the Rebbitzin are on one side, and the rest of the 10 people that are there for the minyan are on the other side of the Mechitza. And generally on that side of the Mechitza, the Rav's in one location with his shtender, and the Rebbitzin is off to the side, and she has a separate Mechitza also around her, a regular Mechitza that you would find in a base class that's separating between the Rebbitzin and the Rav. This week we walk into Vasikin, the week that we're learning Mechitza Materes, and lo and behold, we walk in, no Mechitza in front of the Rebbitzin. There is no Mechitza there. And all of a sudden the sugya starts flashing in my head. What is going on over here? I presumed over here the problem was they forgot to put the mechitza up before Shabbos. Shabbos came in, and perhaps this is going to be a problem of mechitza hamateres. Okay, I discussed it with the Bachrim, both at lunchtime in the Vasikin. We discussed it a little bit, and we were discussing the different sugya. We'll come to this shaila in a little bit. Let's get into the sugya though to try and understand what is halacha l'maisa, maybe to understand the shaila that we just discussed. The Gemara Das Shabbos Kuf Chaf Hey Amud Beis, page 7 of our Marmakomos, is talking about Hilchos Ohel once again. It says over there in Hilchos Ohel, Hakol Modi. She'ein osin ohel arayim, 4 lines from the 5 lines from the bottom of the page. She'ein osin ohel arayim b'tchila b'yantiv. Ve'in tzarich lomer b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to make an ohel arayim on Shabbos and also on Yantiv. Lo noch lechaku elu lahosif. Sh'Reb Lazar omer ein mosim b'yantiv. Ve'in tzarich lomer b'Shabbos. Choy mosim b'Shabbos. Ein tzarich lomer b'yantiv. The machlokas whether you're allowed to be mosif on ohel. You already have an ohel arayim. You want to be mosif on that ohel arayim on Shabbos. Machlokas Reb Lazar and the Chachamim. We'll get to that in Bezrat Hashem next week. However, says Rashi over here, Dira Masl Shein Osin all right, 3 lines from the bottom of the page, right in the middle. Rashi says, "Vidaf Gagad." The whole machlokas over here is building a roof of the ohel. Aval mechitza lav ohel hu, but a partition, a mechitza that is not considered an ohel. Vishari leporsa litznius kenamrina beiruvin, and one is allowed to put up mechitza litznius on Shabbos, even though it's a mechitzas arai, it should be maybe similar to an ohel arai, which is asur to put up. Says Rashi, only ohel arai is asur, mechitzas arai, that is going to be mutter, says Rashi. Okay? One perhaps can medayik from Rashi, after you learn the sugya, you understand this diak from Rashi, that he goes out of his way to say a mechitzas litznius is going to be asur. Perhaps one can medayik from over here. If it's not only litzniasa ba'alma, it's made for halachic purpose, a halachic mechitza to matter something halachically, then perhaps even Rashi would be moda, that would be asur in the middle of mechitza sarai on Shabbos. However, the Ran, page 8 of your Mar Makomo, says clearly not like this in Rashi. The Ran says, based on a girsa change Rashi makes in Dav in Sukkah, and based on Rashi that we'll soon see, based on a couple different cheshbonos in Rashi, says the Ran, in the highlighted part, Michlal dvar malalu atolomod shirashi's al sovar shafilu mechitza materes. Even a mechitza materes, a mechitza that comes to matter something halachically on Shabbos, mutar lasosa b'Shabbos. You're allowed to put it up on Shabbos. Okay, we got to put it up on Shabbos. So the Ran learns out Rashi, and this is also Tosos. Also, on page 9 of your Mar Makomos, also learns like this in Rashi, that Rashi does not only allow you to put up a mechitza litznius ba'alma, but even a mechitza materes is going to be mutter according to Rashi. By the way, it doesn't mean that everyone agrees like this in Rashi. If you look in the Meiri Kuf Chaf Heyam base, the end of Dir Masla in Osin and Mashma that he holds that Rashi is going to be machmir by mechitza materes. But we have the Ran and Tosas that are made. The Rashi would say not only litznius of alma, but also mechitza materes is going to be mutter to be built. However, comes Rabbeinu Tam, page 7 of our Marmekamos. After bringing down Shitas Rashi, says Rabbeinu Tam towards the end of the highlight of the verse, Ela nira Rabbeinu Tam deshaper shayich bidfanos ohel. You can have the Isser of Ohel by just building the fanos. Heicha de mechitza moelis leheter. If the mechitza comes to matter something, that is a mechitza materes, and according to Rabbeinu Tam, it is usher to build on Shabbos. Okay? That is Shitas Rabbeinu Tam. So we have a machlokas Rabbeinu Tam versus perhaps Rashi. Is all mechitza saraya allowed to be built? Only a mechitza sarai litznias, and not for mechitza amateres. And lechora, there are two rayas to Rabbeinu Tam. Number one, Rabbeinu Tam himself brings over here in the Hanshech, and this is really what his kasha on Rashi is. And that is based on the Gemara that you guys have on page 6 of your Marmekamos, that talks about over there building a wall of a sukkah on Shabbos or Yom Tov with a person or an animal. And over there, the Gemara is mechalek between a sukkah made with 3 walls versus a 4th wall. You can use people and an animal as a 4th wall of the sukkah on Shabbos. But to build it as the 3rd wall of Shabbos, that is going to be asur. What's the difference between a 3rd wall and a 4th wall? Says Rabbeinu Tam. Ulahachi b'dofin shlishis da'avi mechitzo machsher leila sukkah chashiv asiyas ohel b'tchila. Everyone knows that in sukkahs, a sukkah made of 3 walls is kosher. Less than 3 walls, less than 2.5 walls, is not going to be kosher. So therefore, the 3rd wall is a mechitza materes. It's mattering your sukkah. It's creating a sukkah. Masha ein kain aval dofin revius eina ela tosefes be'alma. But a 4th wall in a sukkah is an extra wall that you don't really need halachically. And therefore, says Rabbeinu Tam, that's the chiluk in the Gemara. The 3rd wall is coming to be matter the sukkah, therefore it's going to be asur. The 4th wall is not going to be matter the sukkah, therefore it's going to be mutter. Mikan lama Rabbeinu Tam, that a mechitza materes is asur to build on Shabbos, only a mechitza litznias ba'alma is going to be mutter. That's one raya. The second raya, Rabbeinu Tam does not mention over here in Tosos, he alludes to it in the beginning of Tosas that Rashi has a different teretz. The Ran, though, not in your highlighted part of it, but page 8, in the second column, he points out that the Pashup shot in the Gemara in Eruvin, that page 5 of your Marmekamos, he claims this is a raya for Rabbeinu Tam. What is that raya? So says the Gemara over there, page 5, those are doing Daf Yomi, just done it last week or so. Okay, says over there, the Rav Shmuel Avi Yossi Ba'u Chotzer. Rav and Shmuel sitting in a Chotzer, Nafal Guda, the wall falls down the Beini Bein. In between, the wall falls down, and therefore, Ayvei, no Mechitza, no Eruv. Amar Lu Shmuel Shkukal Glima Nagidu Ba. Says Shmuel, take your garment and let's put it up and spread it over the part of the wall that fell down, and that will be the Mechitza. Adrinon Rav Lapein, Rav turned his face around. He did not want to watch what was going on, to show disapproval for what Shmuel was doing. As Gemara explains, even though it's the place of Shmuel, they were in the home of Shmuel, therefore Rav didn't want to protest against Shmuel. And he let Shmuel pass in his own shaila, but he didn't want to show that he was happy with what Shmuel was doing, therefore he turned his face. Okay, what's the problem over here? Says the Ran, page 8. You see over here in the second column that he says this is a raya for Rabbeinu Tam also. The reason why Rav was turning his face to Shmuel is because he's building up a mechitza materes. He's mastering the Eruv over here. Therefore, that's why Rav was upset at Shmuel, and therefore he would not let him go. That's why he didn't ask him to what he was doing. Why? Because he's putting up a mechitza materes. L'chora, according to Rashi, this should be mutter. Even a mechitza materes is going to be mutter. Let him put up the wall, even to allow the Eruv. So we have 2 kashas on Rashi, both from the Gemara in Sukkah. Why is Rashi going to say it's going to be usher to put Adam and Behema to put up for your 3rd wall on Shabbos and Yom Tov? You're allowed to put up a mechitza on Shabbos, even a mechitza materes. So to over here, what's the problem? What was Rav's problem with Shmuel putting up the talus in order to put up to fix the wall of the Eruv. So the Gemara in Eruvin, as everyone knows, that's not a kasha on Rashi, because Rashi himself bevorns this kasha, like Tosos is already made, like the Ran is already made, that she does Rashi. The reason why Rashi says this, says Rashi over here, Adrin and Rav La'apei. Why did Rav turn his face? Not because he's creating Mechitza Materes. The Kisover also letaltal asadin shebetocha. He was upset that he was carrying the talus to the place of putting the mechitza. He's walking Daled Amos in a place that doesn't have an Eruv. That's why Rashi says that Rav was upset. Not because he's building the mechitza. Building the mechitza is fine. It's carrying the glima to there in order to put up the mechitza. That's why Rav says the Ran, says Rabbeinu Tam. Okay, says also Rabbeinu Tam in Sefer Yashar, page 2 of your extra Mar Makomos. The reason why Rashi explains this way is because Rashi holds Mechitza Materes is also mutter. This is the raya for Rashi, why Rashi holds like this. Okay, says Rabbeinu Tam in the Sefer Yashar, who perish Rabbeinu Shlomo at the time of the Kapim Mishum the Asr Lahaviyam to bring it, to carry it. Ve'ena wrote to Lefarish Mishum Ohel, Mishum the Ksavar, the Min Hatzad Kule Al Mashari. A Mechitza put on the Sad that is good according to everyone. And therefore, that is why Rashi explains, like he explains over here at Aaron, this is Dafka Rashi Lishitas, not a kash against Rashi, it's Rashi Lishitas. So, but we're still left. What about the Gemara in Sukkah? What are we going to do with the Gemara in Sukkah and also in Eruvin that we just mentioned with the it makes a chilik between the third wall and the fourth wall of the Sukkah? Well, he's just building a mechitza over here. Should be mutter according to Rashi. This was a little bit more difficult until I found that Rav Willig in the Am Mordechai page Kuf Nun Dalid quotes the Karban Nesano that you guys have in your extra Mar Mekamos. The Karban Nesano in the Rosh Perik Shvasrei Os Kuf says the following Chiddush in Rashi, that when Rashi says that you could build a mechitza sarai on Shabbos, even if it's going to be mechitza materes, that's because Rashi holds. That's what Rashi holds. A mechitza alone is going to be mutter. But when you have a mechitza that connects to also an ohel, and therefore the ohel is also be mattered, that's like creating an ohel on Shabbos. And therefore it's going to be asr. So it's not because he puts a mechitza. It's because he puts a mechitza in the context of an ohel with a gag. That's why it's going to be asr. Says the Karban Nesanel, Hainu aschashu agaga sukkah. Aval mechitza below schach. Asha dov mates lo mikre ohel v'shar aved. Only because over here it's along with the schach also, and therefore it has a gag also. There even Rashi is going to say it's asr to build a mechitza that connects to a gag. But what we're discussing, the argument is, when you only have a mechitza like the Gemara over there on Sadi Dalin Neivravin by Rav and Shmuel, where there's only a mechitza, there's no gag over there. That, says Rashi, is going to be mutter to build, even though it's going to be a mechitza hamateres. So we have a great machlokis over here between Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, the Tati, and the Nechet, the grandson over here. What is pshat over here? What is a mechitza materes mutter to build on Shabbos, or is a mechitza materes usher to build on Shabbos? Okay. Now, either way, both Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi hold that a mechitza is more mekel than an ohel. To build an ohel, it's nias. You want to build an ohel to protect you from your neighbors. We don't allow. Okay, you know, your neighbor sees you put up an ohel on Shabbos. That's not going to, even though ohel rise, they're going to be usher. But a mechitza litznias is going to be more mekel. Why is this? Says the Mishnah Berurah, page 14, Sif Katan Gimel in Siman Shin Taz Vav. 14 of your Mar Mekamos explains the Mishnah Berurah why are we more mekel by mechitza than an ohel. Says the Mishnah Berurah, the Iker Ohel Hu Hagag Shemalalav. Similar to Sukkah, we going to say this also. The Iker part of the Sukkah is the schach. So too in any Ohel, the Iker part of an Ohel is the gag. So therefore, we're more gozer by a gag than the mechitzas. V'lachin gozer wo mishum ohel keva. Mash ein kein Okay, and therefore, if you don't even just build an Ohel Arai, where it goes to Mishum Ohel Keva. Mash'enke Mechitzas Arai L'chud Lo Nechshav Ka'Ohel Klal. But just a Mechitzas Arai, that is one step further removed, and therefore we're going to be Mekel at least when it's only there for Tznius. But in terms of the Machlokes, Rashi Rabbeinu Tam, how do we pass? When we open up our Shulchan Aruchs over here, page 14, it says, Asr Lasos Ohel B'Shabbos V'Yontiv Afilu Arai. It is asr to make an Ohel on Shabbos or Yontiv, even an Ohel Arai. Good so far. However, it says V'Dafka Gag, Aval Mechitzas Mutter. Dafka Gag is going to be asr. Mechitzas though, that's going to be mutter. However, then it says the Mechaber Ve'in Mechitza Asura El Inkein Nasis Lahater Sukkah O Lahater Tiltul. The only time we're going to be machmir by mechitza, if it's going to be matter the sukkah or matter tilto like the eruv, I know what we call a mechitza materes. So paskins the mechaber over here like Shitas Rabbeinu Tam, and the Ramah just goes on to explain Shitas mechaber and agrees with Shitas mechaber. He says mechitza nasis. Litznius ba'alma shari, but if it's just a mechitza that's made for tznius ba'alma, it's not going to matter something. You want to hang a drape in front of the door. In order to that, you go ahead and change clothes inside the room, and people are not going to. That's for tznius ba'alma. That's going to be mutter to do. So we do halachically make this chilik between a mechitza litznius versus a mechitza hamateres. We hold a mechitza materes is going to be aser, and so too. Any mechitza that's going to be usher to build, also we say is usher listor. Anything that's usher to build, usher listor. Therefore, Paskins Rishon Mazam and Koder and Shemir Shabbos Kilchos up here Chav Dalit Halacha Mem Dalit page 6 of your extra Mamre Komos that it's usher listor mechitza materes. If you have a mechitza materes, you're not allowed to knock down a mechitza. You can't take down the wall of the eruv on Shabbos. You're undoing the mechitza materes. Anything that's usher to build, it is usher to go ahead and knock down also. Says the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, Kishem Shasr Lasos Mechitza Materes, Kain Asr Leforka, Be'oda Mishameshes Kemechitza Materes. However, the Shmir Shabbos is very important. Achla Achar She'ein Od Sarich Ba. If you do not need the mechitza anymore, V'shuv Eina Mishameshes Kemechitza Materes, Hare, multiple fork, it's no longer mechitza mater, it's not mater. We're done with the heter over here. You'll be allowed to take down that mechitza on Shabbos again. So mechitza's arai. A mechitza's keva is always going to be just like Ohel keva is always us. Mechitza's keva is always going to be us. We're talking about over here mechitza's arai. You temporarily build something that it's going to be mutter. If it's a mechitza, if it's not going to be materis. If it's not going to be materis, it's going to be mutter. And therefore, it's going to be mutter listor, a mechitza. That's not materis, and even it's materis, but the materis ends. You don't need the mechitza anymore. Then you can go ahead and take it down. Furthermore, says the Shiur Shabbos, page 5 of your extra Mar Mekomos. Mechitza materis shematiro b'makom ha'nimtza ein la'avirta. If you already have a mechitza that's built, and all you want to do is move it from place to place, it might even be on wheels. You wheel it from one place to another place. Afilu b'shleimus l'makam acher k'dei lahater la'asos shum dover shasol l'sos biladeha. If you cannot do the action halachically without the mechitza, you can't even move an existing mechitza from place to place. That is also going to be usher here on Shabbos. Okay, so we have a bunch of different things over here. We are machmer by mechitza materes. We are machmer. They can't move mechitza from place to place if it's going to be matter in the new place. That's also going to be usher to go ahead and do. Great. The shaila though is, what is the definition of a mechitza materes? What exactly is a mechitza materes? Outside echad, on one side we see over here clearly that vaday, a mechitza that comes to be mater sukkah, a mechitza that matters in eruv, that's considered mechitza materes, and that's for sure us. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we see that if it's a mechitza only for tznius purposes, that's also not going to, or to protect, that's also not going to be. Excuse me. Or to protect you from the sun or from the rain. Okay, why you need a mechitza for those things? That's going to be mut. What about other mechitzas? So also, Nowadays, we have all these corona mechitzas, what we call shkuftas there in Eretz Yisrael. We have these mechitzas built all over the place. Excuse me. Maybe I need one of those shkuftas over here. That you need over here, it's going to be mutter. That's lahage. That's for sure going to be mutter. That's similar to what the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa brings down, page 7, your extra Mar Makomas, if you use just to protect. That's also going to be a mechitza that's going to be mutter on Shabbos. It talks over here, putting a mechitza between two cholim, whether it's for protection or whether it's just for a little bit more privacy. Mutter to put up mechitza between two cholim in a beit cholim on Shabbos. That is also going to mutter, similar to most of these shkuftas, most of these corona mechitzas that have been built in yeshivas and stuff like this. All those are going to be mutter to put up and move from place to place on Shabbos because it's not a mechitza materis. That seems to be pashut. Okay? So what is going to be aser? So says the Ramah over here. The Ramah says Litzniusa Ba'alma is going to be mutter, and we'll get back to some of his examples later on. But then says the Ramah, the last line of page 15. Aval aser lasos mechitza bifnei or laner kidei shishamish mitaso v'chein. Says the Ramah, lifnei svarim kidei l'shamesh o lasos tzrachav. So says over here the Ramah, two more examples of mechitza materes. If someone in their bedroom unfortunately left the ner, the candle lit, or the light on, or he left svarim in the room and for whatever reason cannot remove the svarim, let's say it's a whole bookcase of svarim, therefore it's going to have aser l'shamish mitaso. It's aser to have tashish amita in such a bedroom. Therefore, says the Ramah, if one builds a mechitza in front of the ner, or someone builds a mechitza in front of the svarim to ki'ilu, now he's in a separate room than them, that becomes a mechitza amateris. Because before I could not have tashish shemitah in the room, now he's matter the tash in the room, and that's considered a mechitza amateris. That is what the Ramah adds in over here. That's not considered tzniusa ba'alma, that's considered a mechitza hamateris. Okay? Fine. So these are two more examples of where mechitza is going to be aser. However, we have to understand, in order to understand this Magen Avram, an important thing over here. There's two ways of being able to matter tashmish shamita in a room that either has svarim in it or a light in the room. One way, as the Ramah is describing, is to build a mechitza in front of it, to basically make two separate rooms, husband and wife on one side, and svarim or ner is in the other room on the other side of the mechitza. That's one way of doing it. Now it's like two separate rooms, halachically. There's another way, similar to the inventions that we have, like the Shabbos lamp, is you have a ner in the room, and you go ahead and cover it. If you cover the ner, you cover the light in the room, that's another, even without a mechitza. Now the light is covered, it is no longer there. That's a second way of getting rid of the problem. Same thing with svarim. Just svarim, you need a double covering. Mechadesh the Magen Avram, page 13 of your Mar Makomos, says the Magen Avram over here that only the first way is going to be aser on Shabbos. Says the Magen Avram only to build a mechitza to make it two separate rooms. That's where we're going to have a problem of building the mechitza on Shabbos. Aval, says the Magen Avram, 4 lines after it gets highlighted. Aval kishetola mechitza neged kol svarim shei megulim klal. But if you put the mechitza in a way that you're covering the svarim, or for that matter, the near pshita dafilu ein gavoa asara shari. Even if the mechitza is not a halachic mechitza, even if it's not 10 tfachim high, just like any other covering, this mechitza can be used as a covering. Therefore, the Magen Avram is mechalik between, and after it says v'u'adin and er. If you use it l'shem mechitza, you're separating, you have a 10 tfachim mechitza, and the ner or the svarim are above there. I mean, on the other side, but above, you can still see it. But nevertheless, you're like in a separate room, and therefore it's going to be mutter. And if that's going to be mutter, you're building a mechitza materes, and therefore it's going to be aser to do that on Shabbos. Okay, Masha ein kain. If you put the mechitza in front of the ner, you put the mechitza in front of the svarim, where you're now covering them. So it's like any other kisui ba'alma. If I put a towel on top of the lamp, or I put a towel on top of the svarim, if it's a double covering, that's going to be worked bitam kisui. Therefore, says the Magen Avram, if this mechitza works bitam kisui, it's not a mechitza materes. It's not considered. It's like a kisui ba'alma, and therefore it's going to be mutter. That's like pshat over here. It's as if I covered the light. It's if I cover the svarim, if I go ahead and put it in front of them, that I can't see it anymore. And that's why the Magen Avram is Mekel over here. And this is the Mishnah Berurah brings down this Magen Avram, page 14, in Sivkot and Yud. Okay? However, not everyone agrees with this. One of them is the Mamre Mordechai. Many other Achronim also disagree. If you book on page 12 of your extra Mamre Makomos, we brought you the Mamre Mordechai, who's cholik on the Magen Avram, and says at the end of the day, if it's not a kisui, it's a mechitza. Who cares if it's mechase, but it's used as mechitza, it's still a shei mechitza, it's still mechitza materes. If you put a blanket over the svarim, so that's a covering. But if you're using a mechitza in front of the svarim, even though you can't see the svarim anymore, that's not considered begeder kisui, and it's also going to be aser. Nevertheless, Paskins, the Mishnah Berurah over there, after bringing down the Magen Avram, after bringing down the Cholkim, page 15 of your Mareh Mekomos, says the Mishnah Berurah over here. V'inei, 2 lines to the bottom of the page. Even though there are achronim that are mefakfik on the heter of the Magen Avram, v'sovrim the came in the sofa yidei amachitza hutor atta l'shamish l'asot tzracham. Because right now I was not allowed to have tasha shemitah before, and now I matered it through a mechitza. That's considered a mechitza materes. Nevertheless, chashim mechitza materes l'asot laso. So mikol makom nira to b'shas techak. Yesh l'smoch al dvarav. B'shas techak, says the Mishnah Berurah, one could be samech on the Magen Avram, and even though the only way to go ahead and have a lot of tashas is putting this mechitza in front of the svarim and using a kisui, that would be fine. Okay, you could be samech on the Magen Avram. And the Bir Halacha takes it even one step further. Says the Bir Halacha, page 16 of your Mareh Mekomos. Dibur Maslim Lo. Takes the Magen Avram and takes one extra jump. The Magen Avram makes this chiluk that there's a mutter way of doing this and an usher way of using the mechitza to be mater tashmish. Okay? You could do the mutter way, you can't do the usher way. Says the Bir Halacha, he says, Ayin sham nishmas adam klam and dalazation mitzadit. Tibimakum sheyitzro shel adam tokfa. It's very, very difficult situation. V'aneres tokim, the lights on in the room. We're afraid the guy is going to be over Isser. Oh, she is shamish la'or nor. He's going to come to have tashas with his wife la'or nor, or in front of the svarim dika sakon. As shemuter azli smocha poshiv Magen Avram b'sikot gimel shematir says mechitza aray. Number one, for sure, then you can rely on the Magen Avram and put a mechitza aray in front of it as a kisui. But even more than that, you could even build a regular mechitza that doesn't cover, says the Bir Halacha. Why? Since it's not really a mechitza mater, since I don't need the mechitza, I can use it as a kisui. Therefore, I can even use it as a mechitza because it's not considered a mechitza materes. Since I could have just covered the nair with a kli, or I couldn't cover the nair with the mechitza itself. So just putting a mechitza even in a place where it does not cover the nair, it's not considered a mechitza materes even. A gewaldige chiddush over here, the Bir Halacha, he's not saying to rely on this only mimakom sheyitzro tokfo, and we're afraid of a man being over isurim. That's when we're going to be makel even one step further than the Magen Avram. But even just b'shas techak, a difficult situation, the Magen Avram, you can rely on the Magen Avram and just put the mechitza in front, and that is going to use it as a kisui, and that is going to be good enough. Okay, let's put this Bir Halacha though in our back pocket. We're going to come back to this in a couple of minutes. Let's move in, perhaps the most common shaila of mechitza materes. What about a mechitza and a shul? You want to put a mechitza for davening. Is this considered a mechitza materes or not? So one could learn from the Mordechai, page 9 of our Mareh Mekomos. You open up the Mordechai in Siman Shin Yud Aleph in Masechet Shabbos. Says the Mordechai, about 10 lines down. He says, V'hani mili b'mechitza she'ein asui l'tzarech tznius. Aval mechitza she'osa l'tznius ba'alma mutar. We know the schiluk, mechitza materes. Mechitza b'tznius. The Mordechai goes with this schiluk. And then he says, what's an example for mechitza l'tznius? Kigon mechitza she'osim b'shasa drasha. When the Rav gives the drasha, they want to separate the man and the woman, you put a mechitza b'voim, bein ha'nashim l'nashim, mutar la'asosa b'shabbos. That is defined as a mechitza l'tznius, the mechitza that's put up for during the Rav's drasha. Okay? So perhaps one can medayik from over here that the same thing. You want to put up a mechitza l'shem tznius to separate between the men and the woman. And Hanami, our poskim will hold that for this reason, if you do not have mechitza up in the shul and you want to put a mechitza up to mafri between the men and the woman, they point to this Mordechai and say it's going to be mutar misham tznius ba'alma. One of them is the Nefesh Harav that you have in your extra Mar Makomos, page 9. Nefesh Harav Soloveitchik held like this. He says over here, "V'Rabbeinu Tavaz Rishitas to a dinami b'mechitza sheporsim b'beis knesses v'shasat tefila bein hanashim and nashim is considered a mechitza litznius." Okay, this is the position of some poskim. However, Moreinu Rabbeinu Rav Nevinsal Dibra Masa Lahafsik in the Vayitzchak Garei points to a very famous Rav Moshe, and he says sort of a very, very ambiguous claim. All he says over here is that according to Rav Moshe, he says, "L'tfila yeshloim to be in a mechitza gemura v'losagi bevilan igros Moshe orachayim chelak al simin lamites." This is the famous tshuva of Rav Moshe, which we all know. The time, especially in the earlier days of Rav Moshe, reforming conservative Judaism was burning hot in America, and many Jews were unfortunately leaving Orthodox Judaism, going to these Beit Knesset. And they asked Rav Moshe, okay, even though people are still somewhat Orthodox, the closest shul were these non-mechitza minions started to become conservative, could people daven there? As says Rav Moshe Feinstein, he brings a raya from the Gemara in Sukkah, that a mechitza in a shul is a din d'oraisa. Says Rav Moshe, page 7 of your extra Mar Mekomos, he says over here, in the etzam edin, she'af im ha'anoshim heim mitzarecha, v'ha'anoshim mitzarecha, even if you separate the men and women, men one side, woman on the other side, asurin hein lios below mechitza hu la niazdaitai dina d'oraisa. It is Isser Daraisa to daven in such a shul. You require a mechitza midin daraisa to be mafri between the man and the woman. That's what Rav Moshe claims. Based on this, what I understood Rav Moreno Rav Nevinsal was saying, and this is what he told me Baal Peh also, that according to Rav Moshe, a Beit Knesset without a mechitza, you're not allowed to daven in. Therefore, the putting up the mechitza turns it into a mechitza materes, and therefore it should be aser. This seems to be a very logical claim in the world of Rav Moshe. But the Orchos Shabbos, page 11 of your extra Mar Makomos, says the Orchos Shabbos, listen to his claim. He says over here in the highlight part, Osnan Vav, V'nira da aflafi masha katav b'sefer igros Moshe Orachayim simin lamates. Sheish chiyav gamor shamachitza bein anashim v'nashim. Mikol makom ein zanechshe kamitza mechitza materes. The Orchos Shabbos disagrees with Moreinu Rabbeinu. He holds that Rav Moshe would hold it is not considered a mechitza materes. Why? You don't need mamish dine mechitza over there. It's true. You can't put the men on one side and the women on the other side. Rakavdola l'tzarech tznius. You need to have a physical barrier in between the men and the women. The gam mechitza tluya sheishes tachet chalal gemot tfachim tuchshar. Even if you build a mechitza with 3 tfachim at the bottom, which probably many shuls do have 3 tfachim between the floor and the actual mechitza, it's not a din mechitza halachically, but it would be work for a shul. So says the Orchos Shabbos, even though you need a physical barrier, it's not really midin mechitza, and therefore it's going to be mutter even to put up a mechitza between the man and the woman, and everything is fine, even in the world of Rav Moshe Feinstein. However, this does not sound pasha to me at all. First of all, who says that's necessarily true that Rav Moshe would allow a vilo and ba'alma Not so clear that Rav Moshe would hold it. But even if you would say you would hold it, even if I'll say you're allowed to have a mechitza that has more than 3 tefachim, this sounds exactly like the Magen Avraham that we said before. There's 2 ways of mattering over here with the ner, covering it and a real mechitza. So to over here in Shul, you can put up a real mechitza, or you can put up a fake mechitza, just a barrier. But if I put up a mechitza, a real mechitza, and it's a mechitza materes now, l'chora, this should be aser. Not so clear, not so fast what the Aruch Shabbos is saying. So, when I have a problem with the Rosh Zalman, and a steer within Rosh Zalman, I turn to Moreno Rabbi Rav Nevitzol, we go turn to the Talmud to know what Rosh Zalman really said. So when I have a problem with Rav Moshe, I try and turn to the Talmud of Rav Moshe. So I called up Rav First from Chicago, one of the great Talmidim of Rav Moshe Feinstein, and Rav First in Chicago agreed with Moreno Rabbi Rav Nevitzol. He said, Pashut, that according to Rav Moshe, it's considered a machitza materes. And he said, I'll bring you a raya. What's the raya? Our Mordechai. He says, what do the Mordechai say? The Mordechai says a mechitza that's put up between the Anashim and the Nashim, that's considered tznius ba'alma, it's not a mechitza materes. He said, if it's true also in his shul, it's only a mechitza, it's not a mechitza materes, why didn't he tell us the bigger chiddush? Tell the more common thing to put up a mechitza in the shul, it's considered a mechitza, let's tznius ba'alma. The fact that he just talked about the drasha, dafka over there, that's tznius ba'alma. But in a shul between the man and woman, he wants to say it's a raya that he holds that's mamish din. You need a mechitza over there. And therefore it would be a mechitza materes, says refers from Chicago. And then we also found it in a sefer called Mesoras Moshe, which is a sefer that was written after it was niftar, I believe, by the Tendlers. Chilik Beis or Chaim Oskov Chavtes says the shita Rav Moshe that a mechitza in a shul is considered a mechitza materes. Okay, you should know though, even according to Rav Moshe, unclear what he would say necessarily in these outdoor minyanim that are going on right now. It could be just a din in the Beit Knesset, for sure. I don't know, you sometimes these camps go out to Yulim, and you have boys and girls, and they want to daven mincha or stuff like that. That's true over there. You could separate it. That's a rai ba'alma. That's not considered a din Beit Knesset. It would be mutter to have the men on one side, women on the other side, especially in these types of cases. Rav Moshe is talking about a din Beit Knesset. Over here, where you have the out-din money, the Talmud more kvias, is that would be considered. Imagine also the mechitzas are getting moved all around all these times in these types of temporary types of shuls. Whether it has a din Beit Knesset for this, I'm not convinced that it would. In any ways, we saw there are other poskim who are makel. And by the way, in Sefer Va'alelu Yibol brings down a michtav from Rosh Zalman himself, that it brings down over there, if a mechitza falls down on Shabbos, could you pick it up? And Rosh Zalman says you could pick it up, because the mechitza is only l'tznius ba'alma, okay, not like Moreno Rabbi Rav Nevitzol's diuk in Rav Moshe. So you do also have other sources over here that a mechitza is l'tznius. There's a big nafka, you don't have the mechitza up before davening, Kabbalah Shabbos comes, tomorrow Friday night, you want to put up the mechitza, Mutter Aser, that is going to be this nafkamina between the poskim. According to Rav Moshe, perhaps it would be Aser to put up such a mechitza on Shabbos. Which gets back to our Shiloh, by the way. Okay? This ends up like the Shiloh, similar to the milk bottle of Rav Moshe. No, the story over there with the Chalv Yisrael. And that is because over here, I was thinking all davening, I was going on and on in my head. Okay, Davka pooped the week that we're learning Mechitza Materes. Why didn't he put up the Mechitza? It must be that he held Mechitza Materes is Asr. But then I started thinking, Mechitza Materes is Asr, so we should not be able to daven here anymore. Okay, the Rebbetzin standing there, and we don't have Mechitza. So Memanav Shach. If it's a Mechitza Materes, and that's why I don't put up. So if it's a Materes, it's Materes to daven. We shouldn't be able to daven here. If it's not a Mechitza Materes, why don't they put up the Mechitza? I was so by. I asked Moreno Rabbi Rav Nevitzol Motzi Shabbos. The Rebbetzin was there. So what's going on? The mechitza. What is it? Because of mechitza materes? That's why I didn't ask to put it up. I was waiting for him to say yes. And I was going to be mitvakeach and ask the guy, my mom, manav shach. And the Rebbetzin comes in and says, "Oh, I told the Rav that when they put up the mechitza, there's not enough light. I can't see my siddur well enough." And the Rav said, we don't really need a mechitza over here. I asked her the pshat because there's only one woman over there. Anyways, she's on the other side of a mechitza, even though it's a clear mechitza on the other side of a mechitza. And therefore he said we don't need a mechitza anyways. Generally, mechitza made the rabbis more comfortable be behind the mechitza. But she couldn't see. She couldn't see because the mechitza was blocking the light, and therefore they took down the mechitza. Okay, so we can't learn anything from this ma'isa, but I still thought it was unbelievable that it happened dafka the week that we're learning this together. Okay, fine. That's by Beit Knesset. And we talked about the drasha. Even Ramosha is the machmir by the Beit Knesset, l'chor, not like the Aruch HaShabbos, but Ramosha says that's by a Beit Knesset. But a wedding, which you're not going to have anyways on Shabbos, or let's say a Sheva Brachos, he says, Umakum kibbutz, in page 8 of your extra Mar Makomos, Umakum kibbutz l'divei reshus, v'af b'chatunot, misupkoni miyesha isra zeb ofen shaleka chashash yichud, v'yoter nota shaleka le'isra. He holds the mikra the din, there's no isra for men and women really to be sitting together. There's no chiyuv to have a mechitza at Sheva Brachos, and even a chasana. There's no mamish chiyuv. And therefore, even according to Rav Moshe, the Sheva Brachos and Shabbos, even if you want to have the men and women separate, and you want to put a mechitza b'alma, that would be litzniusa ba'alma, and that is going to be mutter even in the world of Rav Moshe. I did see in a sefer called Yesodei Halacha, on page Reish Mem Hey, he wants a medayik from Rav Avadia. He wants a medayik from Rav Avadia, Chele Gimel Avnei Ezer, Siman Yud, Os Tes. Not like this, because you see Rav Avadia is very stark when it comes to Tznius in Yanim. Rav Avadia is very, very stark. And over there he talks about a mikir the din, you need a mechitza. Oh, you have to separate the men and the women, even at Sheva Brachos, weddings. And he brings down the shitas that hold you can't say the bar of a simcha b'muno if there's no separation between the men and women, there's mixed seatings. So he wants to claim that according to Rav Avadia, this would not be so pashut. And he would hold that it would be also to put a mechitza also over here. I humbly disagree, though, with this diak in Rav Avadia. You can almost see it beferish in Rav Avadia. Number one, he himself brings down that many poskim nowadays are more mekel. The minhag tend to be more mekel. He says people have gotten used to the men and women sitting together, therefore there's less heriri avera. And even Rav Avadia holds not like that, and you have to separate the men and women. He says over here that it could be, that it's clear you don't need a physical mechitza as long as the men and women are sitting separately. That would be good enough even according to Rav Avadia. So I think it's a davar pashut that putting a mechitza would not be a mechitza materis, even according to Rav Avadia. Okay, let's move on to the last couple of nekudas over here. Says the Ramah over here in the Hemshech, page 15. Says the Ramah. Says mutter to put up a mechitza litznius abal. He says, "L'chein mutter litlod vilon lifnei apetach. Afal pishikavu hasham. You could hang a drape in front of a petach of a doorway, even though it's going to be kavu hasham. It's going to be mutter." Says the Mishnah Berurah, Siv Katan Vav, Rotza Lomar, She'ino Asui Lahasish. What does it mean, kavua? You're not planning on taking it down. Elatoli Shamtam, it's always going to be there. Why is this going to be mutter? It's always going to be look kviusa. Afilu hachi, says the Mishnah Berurah, Chashim mechitza sarai. It's still not considered a mechitza kavua, it's a mechitza sarai. Kevin shuna vinad beruach mitzuya. Since it's a flimsy cloth that you hung in front of it, it's a drape that would blow back and forth in the wind, that's not considered, it can't be a mechitzas kvua. Okay? Over in Derech Sham, people walk right through it, it doesn't stop people over there. That's the Mishnah Berurah, L'shitaso and Simin Taf Reish Lamed, Sif Yod and Hilchos Sukkah. Says the Mishnah Berurah that we all know, or we should know, like the Mishnah Berurah says over here, a mechitza that blows in the wind is not a mechitza. But what about over here? In this case, or in a sense that you build a sukkah inside your house with an open roof above it. There's no wind inside your house. Well, if you put it outside, it would blow in the wind, but it's right now physically inside of a brick wall, and therefore there's no wind over there. Would that turn into a good mechitza, says the Mishnah Berurah? No. If it would blow, it's an etzem type of mechitza, the flimsiness in the mechitza. If the mechitza is so flimsy that it would blow in the wind outside, even inside, it is not a good mechitza. And therefore, he says, that's why the Ramah says you could be told the mechitza. Masha ein kain, one of the big machloksim between the Hilchos mechitza, between the Mishnah Berurah and the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish disagrees with the Mishnah Berurah. One of the places over here, it's not in your highlighted part, page 18 of your extra Mar Makomos. He says, in order to make it the mechitza, you have to tie it down. However, says the Chazon Ish al Nira, if your house separates over there,
Darebi Beso ain't a ruach mitzuya. Inside your house, there's no ruach mitzuya. Shekotli abayis chotzim ne aruach. Ve'in refayin a mechitza posotal. It's not the flimsiness of the mechitza that's passel the mechitza. Ela tnuasa v'ninuda posotal. It's the movements of the mechitza that moves it, that passes it. And therefore, dafka outside, says the Chazon Ish, a parochas that's going to blow in the wind is not going to be mechitza. But inside your house, no matter how flimsy it is, since it is not going to blow in the wind, it is going to be good. So big machlokas in the Mishnah Berurah and the Chazon Ish, a mechitza that would blow in the wind, but it's right now inside your house. Is it a good mechitza or not? According to the Mishnah Berurah, it's not. And therefore, Lishitaz says that's pshat in the Roma over here, and therefore it's mutter to hang the parochas since it's not v'nad beruach. Outside, even inside, it's not a good real mechitza, and therefore it is going to be fine. Okay, fine. The Rama l'chora got this from the Gemara itself, back all the way to page 3 of your Marmakomos. It says Amar Rav Mishum Rabbi Chia, the bottom of the page, Vilon muterlin tosa umuter lafarka. You can put it up and you can take it down. You can put up a vilon on Shabbos. Or says the Chazon Ish, he disagrees with this also. Could be l'shitaso with the Ruach Matsuya thing, but that's not the Nakuda he's focusing on over here. He says, even if you want to tell me that a parochas, a vilon, that you put up bikvias on your door top is not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem of mechitza. Okay, it's no problem of mechitza, all right? However, says the Chazon Ish, Utema, the kaven the kovel yus tolo atzir and avle kitolo delat atzireha. There's no difference between hanging a vilon or hanging a door on the doorpost. Putting a door on the door is not a problem of mechitza. It's a problem back what we learned in Hilchos Binyan. It's a problem of Binyan. So says the Chazon Ish, even this is not a problem of Hilchos Mechitza, it's Mosif ala Binyan, it's there for Kavua, and therefore it's going to be also, no matter who cares if it's blowing or not in the wind. And by the way, this Machlokes is the 2 days brought down in the Beis Yosef, page 12. Okay, this Machlokes between the Chazon Ish and the Ramah is the 2 days brought down in the Beis. The Beis Yosef holds like the Ramah. The Beis Yosef, page 12 over here, 5-7 lines to the bottom of the highlighter. Here's the Chayin Li. Sha'af al pisha toli sham b'kvias shari. Shari kevan shekulu nad v'nad beruach mitzuya v'gam eina ma'akiv l'hochim v'orim derech sham mikri lo kaviyah. This isn't lo kaviyah, and therefore it's mutter to put up. And he doesn't say anything about binyan. However, a couple lines earlier, u'midivi Rashi diperak bach deiru masher delo sharinim bevilon el b'sheinu toli sham b'kvias. It's only mutter to put up this vila in the Pshat in the Gemara, page 3 of our Marmakomos. Mutter lintosa, mutter leforka is only a vila that you're going to put up and you're going to take down. Put up, you're going to take down. But if it's there for kvias, it's going to be asr. Mutali sham kvias, asr lintosa, uleforka b'Shabbos, v'chein nir shesover bal trumas adeshen. So the Beis Yosef takes on Rashi and the trumas adeshen over here. The Ramah agrees with the Beis Yosef. The Mishnah Berurah seems to go with the Ramah also. Chazon Ish says, hey, this is a problem of binyan, and therefore this should be asar, and therefore the Chazon Ish paskins the chumrah. Masha ein kain, as you would imagine, Rav Avadia goes with the pashas of the Beis Yosef. The Rav Avadia, listen to his lashon in Chazon Avadia, he paskins lakula, and after bringing down the Chazon Ish's makra, listen to his words. He says, "Va'anu ein achrayas achronim aleinu." The achrayas, the achron, the Chazon, that's not upon us. We don't have to worry about them. Ve'ein lanu lazuz mipiskei hashulchan aruch. We can't lazuz from the piskei hashulchan aruch, which the Beis Yosef quotes over here. The Ramah paskins like shem hilchos kvius l'klal Yisrael, v'kol Yisrael, and therefore says Rav Avadia that one could be Michael. For Pashat, whether the Mishnah Berurah or the Chazon Ish over here, or Avadia, everyone's going to agree, as the Mishnah Berurah himself points out back on page 15 of your Marmakomos, in the Hemshech of that same Mishnah Berurah over there. Aval l'chabr l'malu l'mata. If you're mechaber in the top and you're mechaber in the bottom, umin etztonim and the sides, being in shein nazim in komo asr mishum binyan, the stimas kevo, then you're sosing the whole doorway. That's a stimas kevo that even the Mishnah Berurah would say like. And then we get to the next part of the Ramah. The Ramah says, "V'chein leparochas lifnei Aron Kodesh." A parochas you hang in front of the Aron Kodesh, That's like the vilon. That's like Snias Ma'alma. It's not for Shmir. There's doors to the Aron Kodesh. So the vilon is for sure going to be mutter to hang up. That's what the Ramah says. And says the Mishnah Berurah, V'zeh pshita d'shari. He says, Mashiach B'yudah, the cave in the age, B'lav achi del Aron Kodesh, in Kena Paruchas, in Otoi Rak, Litznius Ba'alma. There's no problem with Mechitza over here. It's Litznius Ba'alma, and everything's going to be fine. Once again, though, says the Chazon Ish, not so fast. Fine, not a Mechitza on Shabbos. But once again, you're hanging on Aron Kodesh, a big kli that's Mechuber LaKarka, or it's considered like the Karka. It's Isser Mishum Binyan, to hang a Parochas and put it into its Radz on Shabbos. Asur Mishum Binyan, says the Chazon Ish once again. Says the Chazon Ish in that same page 18 of your regular Markomos, Vecha Shetolios Kavua Ein Makom L'Chelik Bein Tolo Bepetach Patuach O Betolo Adal Shei Lo Mishum Mechitza Asinan Mechulei V'chulei. The Chazon Ish would be machmer even by the Parochas. Okay, even by the Parochas. So therefore, L'chora, if one of these rods of the Aron Kodesh of the Baruchas falls off the Aron on Shabbos, l'chora it's going to be usher to be machzer l'chora, at least according to the Chazon Ish. And Kal v'chomer, when we put up these rods, we put it there for a long time. There's a big tzad to say one should be machmer. However, the Ma'aseh Shaya will end with this. This once happened in Moreinu Rabbeinu Rav Neventel's house at Mincha and Shabbos. We were diving to take out the Sefer Torah, and the top of the Sefer Torah hit the rod of the Parochas that's nimsa inside the Rav's Aron, and the whole rod fell off. Okay, so I took the rod and I held the Parochas. I asked what the Rav to do. He said to put it back in. Put it back in. I got a little nervous. Right? We put it back in. I have to ask the Rav, what's pshat? It's the chorah, it's going to be there with kvias. He said over there, pshat, exactly like the Chazon Ish. His words were like the Chazon Ish. So we saw this Chazon Ish earlier on. It's the end of the Chazon Ish over here by us. It's made to be tolul haser, tolon rafui, or it's hanging gently. It's telling you rafui. It's not tight. Shenuach lasirin umemela darkan lasirin. If it's there rafui, then it's going to be mutter. And Rav Neventel held that his rad is considered rafui, and therefore he permitted us to return the rad of the Aron Kodesh back there. So it would depend then. Halach lemaisa. If it's rafui, then the kuli alma is going to be mutter to put back the parochas. If it's mechubar very kasheh and you have to be taka back into it, then it will be machlokas between the Ramah and the